How you going? I like to work on a lot of things in my garage, obviously, and I'm a qualified painter, so I thought I'd run over some painting tips with working with metals mainly, because that's a lot of what I do. Um, I've been a painter for over 10 years, and I've been around paints for probably 15 plus years, so I've come to know what works and what doesn't. Um, I've spoken to a lot of reps from a lot of the big name companies, and so I've had their advice on how to tackle different projects. Now, I'll probably end up repeating myself a few times because I'm going to run over what materials you work with and which paints work with them. But I'm also going to run over the paints themselves and what materials they work on. So it's sort of going to end up repeating myself a bit, yeah. So let's jump into it. Zinc galv. It's like a cold galvanizing coat. There's different names for it. Some people call it cold galv or all sorts. But anyway, zinc galv, just any galvanizing coat. That is sort of like this. This is a proper hot dip galv. But that's sort of your touch ups. If you scratched this off or ground it off for whatever reason, you'd use this to repair it. It works well. It's really good for, say, a boat trailer. If you weld a new piece onto it and then put some of this on as a repair, and it's going to be going in the sea or something, it's sort of a sacrificial coat. The galv is sacrificial. So that's going to break down before the steel breaks down, and you can just touch it up again. It can be a standalone product. It's a matte or flat finish, so it doesn't have a lot of UV resistance. But yeah, it can be standalone. It just probably won't last any more than 5 to 10 years at the very most. 91% zinc in this particular one. Yeah, just keep that in mind. We'll move on to the next one. Silver zinc. 98.5% zinc purity. It doesn't mean it's 98% zinc, because this is heavy, this is light. This has zinc in it, and the zinc in it is 98.5% pure. It's not 98.5% zinc. This is a lower content of zinc by far. It's more of a top coat. It's a special type of paint that doesn't react with zinc. So it's a bright finish, so it's gonna last better in weather, but it's not necessarily gonna last as well around marine environments because it's not as high zinc content. You can put it onto galvanized coatings. Lots of paints you can't. So it has its place. The person I bought this current boat and trailer project off of, you can see they've sort of sprayed some around. I don't know if they've done welding on it or if maybe there's a bit of rust popping up that they've sprayed over, but they've done a bit of an ugly job of it. But this is what they've used, which is fine. It won't react. I can just tidy this up and spray a nice tidy coat over it and it should look fine. Yeah, so it's sort of just a nicer looking version of that with less zinc. So more weather resistant, less rust resistant in marine applications, but most applications it'll be fine. I'll come back to edge primer because edge primer is brilliant, but yeah, I'll come back to that. Top coat. You can use just about any top coat these days. The paint and prime ones I really recommend because primer can do a lot of things. Primer can be an adhesion, so it'll stick to certain things that other paints won't, and that's where it gets its primer name. It can also be coverage. So if you've got something that's like a stain or something, a primer will help cover. Primers have a lot of functions. So if you can get a paint and primer, they tend to cover a lot better. They tend to hold on to more materials better. This one also bonds to plastic apparently. So yeah, there's not much I need to tell you about top coats. You sort of just pick your favourite colour and go for gold. I deal a lot with spray cans, but if you want to use liquid paints and maybe you've got a spray gun, you have a lot more options for colour. and you can actually get acrylics as well, obviously. Acrylics are getting a whole lot better these days. I think other countries call them latexes or emulsions even. Yeah, some of them are brilliant. A lot of them will go straight onto galvanized iron, and they'll even go on top of zinc galv paints. You cannot put any of these oil-based, alkyd-based paints over galv or cold galving coatings. It forms a soap sort of thing. That's what the reps told me. It's basically reacts with the zinc, forms a soap, and then the paint will probably stick to soap, but soap isn't stuck to the galv, and so you've got a barrier between your paint and the surface, and it just won't stick. And it also reacts with the zinc and makes like an orange rust, basically. Looks like rust anyway, comes through the paint fairly quickly. It takes about a month or two. So if you've sold one of your projects and the buyer, or you might get a rude phone call from the buyer saying, hey, all your paint's falling off or got rust spots coming through, that'll be why. So that brings us back to edge primer. Edge primer sticks to just about anything. Lots of paints. Well, these days acrylic paints will stick to lots of things. Well, they'll stick to galv, they'll stick to aluminium. If you get the right ones, read the backs obviously, but a lot of the like 3-in-1, 4-in-1 style primers will stick to aluminium and glass and all sorts. Must have some sort of etching in them. But the original etch primer is just brilliant. It dries super quick. They say recoat in 20 minutes on this particular one, but I can normally recoat them 10 minutes. I believe, it doesn't say it on the back of this particular one, but I believe you're supposed to overcoat them within half an hour at the latest. If you don't, they just dry so hard that your paint just won't stick all that well. Yeah, they don't all say that. Some of them do. I have seen them say that, but this particular one doesn't. I use it all the time because you can put it onto zinc, you can put it onto aluminium, you can put it onto timber, you can put it onto copper, anything. Like all of the metals that normally don't like paint stuck to them, that will stick. And obviously it'll just stick to regular iron. So there's basically nothing it can't do. And in my garage I try and turn products over quickly, so I'll get a boat and trailer in and I'll try and have it sold within a couple of days. So I can chuck this on 9 o'clock at night, it'll be ready to overcoat by 20 past 9 at night, chuck my top coat on, go to bed, come out in the morning, it's done. Something like that. That's my go-kart that I'm just working on at the moment. This was just all rusty steel before, and ground it back, chuck some etch primer on, chuck the coat of paint on it. So that's the sort of thing I would use a lot. Now obviously there's some products missing here. There's your general oil-based metal primer, and then there'd be your general purpose water-based metal primer. Now the reason I don't have them is because I just don't use them. You can use them, there's nothing wrong with them, but I get spray cans quite cheap through my work, so I just buy etch primer in large quantities because of its versatility. It's so practical. The oil-based metal primer is slower drying, which can be good if you need more working time, especially if you buy the liquid one and you want to get into certain areas and things, or you're trying to spray and you're new to spraying or something. A liquid normal oil-based primer can be great, but for me it dries too slow. They don't stick to a lot of metals. They won't stick to aluminium, won't stick to copper, brass, won't stick to galv. It'll react with it. So it's limited as to what it could do bare steel, and that's about it. That's the oil-based version anyway. The acrylic metal primer, that will stick to galv. That will stick to standard metal, it'll stick to a few other products, but again it won't stick to aluminium, which, I mean, I do a few aluminium boats and things, and it's slower drying again, it's thicker, it doesn't finish as nicely, it's quite rubbery, it doesn't dry as hard as oil-based. I don't think I would really have a purpose for acrylic metal primers these days. The only time I would use an acrylic metal primer would be on a roof, basically, or yeah, probably just the roof, because you can buy it in large quantities at a fairly good price, and you can just spray it straight onto a roof and cover a large area. It won't react with a Gale roof, and it's easy to work with. You can clean up your gear in water, which is nice. So that's, I mean, I can see a purpose for it. It's just I wouldn't use it in my garage as such. It'd probably smell a lot better than a lot of these. The etch primer especially is very strong. Yeah, but the etch primer is definitely my go-to. I've got a respirator. I've got big garage doors I can pull open, so the smell doesn't really get to me. But yeah, sticks to anything, dries quickly. You can overcoat it very quickly. That's a good all-rounder. So that's my tips. I've probably glossed over a lot of stuff. If there's anything in particular you want to know, then just drop me a question. I'm going to make a bit of a series on how to make money in your garage. That's sort of what I do all the time. I'm always working on boats and go-karts and scooters and trucks and cars and anything I get my hands on. So yeah, I'm happy to share my tips. So like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.